Hello, welcome back to another episode of Awakening with Soulspirational. I'm Tish, and again in the studio with me today is Rick Stetler and Steve Young. And if we look like we wore the same thing as the last video, it's because we're doing a couple in the studio today. We're just working back to back. The last video we did, we were talking about the subconscious and the conscious for manifesting. And so I thought it'd be kind of fun to follow that up with a video about archetypes. We're not going to get too deep in the woods, but I thought it would be kind of fun.
So we say now.
Right, we'll see. So this is, some say archetypes go back as far as Plato, there's recorded history. Carl Jung really brought them more, I think, to the forefront, where he was talking about 12 archetypes now. I'm doing a class currently where they're print out a paper, a printout for the students of 325 archetypes. It's probably close to what's here. In general, archetypes are universal patterns and images that are part of the collective unconscious. And I don't know, when I think about the collective unconscious, I think about, so the collective, that which is unconscious, the energies that are there maybe through even ancestry, whatever history that are being collected on an unconscious level, meaning things we aren't conscious of. So what I thought would be fun to do, I have this archetype deck from Carolyn Mace, and I thought it would be fun just for us to randomly pick one and just talk about the archetypes. Now, in the way in which we're going to be using these cards, she gives the light and the shadow aspect of the archetype. The class that we're doing now, we're using different archetypes to discern the positive and the negative of a particular chakra. But here, it's the archetype itself that has both a shadow and a negative, or a shadow and a light aspect. So you wanna randomly pick one?
Yes,
Steve?
sure. It's going to be storyteller.
Oh, that fits.
How about that?
That's interesting.
So the light attribute of the storyteller, ability to experience and express life through stories and symbols. And the shadow attribute is making up tales that harm others. So as we know with the shadow attributes on a lot of these archetype cards, I think most people immediately get defensive and say, well, that's not me. That's not me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not meant to be that way. It's meant to say that in the yin and yang, there's two sides to a coin. There's the possibility of a shadow that exists for an archetype. Doesn't always apply, may not ever apply unless someone dwells into the energy of the shadow. And if they do, this is a description of something that might show.
And so I take the shadow aspect as well as if I am feeling the shadow attribute or the shadow side of a particular archetype, I take that as a nudge for me that I'm probably slipping into an unhealthy state of mind and to shift over. So be more specific with a storyteller. Can you share again the light and the shadow attributes? Can you recognize this within yourself on each one?
Yes. So with storyteller, the light attribute is the ability to experience and express life through stories and symbols.
So stop there. How do you do that? Well, this is one, right?
In my own life, doing these videos, these conversations, writing spiritual blogs, looking at my life on the energetic spiritual level through everything that happens during the day, being somebody that's aware of signs and synchronicities all the time. When I do Reiki buddies and we're doing feedback, it's easy for me to see a story as I've gone through the chakras of analysis in the biosyn scan. I can really parlay the experience into a story that I then express to the person, whether it was a client or my Reiki buddy, of what's going on in their energy at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that fascinating because it's almost like writing a book on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, in a sense, a non-fiction book. Like, it's reality of somebody's life, current energies, life path potential sometimes.
And I bet they really enjoy getting that quick book.
And of course, there's always a piece of every one of us that wants to hear stories, whether it's about others or about ourselves. Like, sometimes it's an escape from reality. You're doing story time and you're just listening, you're getting the suspension of disbelief, and you're getting caught up in the fantasy or the sci-fi type of thing. And other times, it's just what innately pulls you to the story because you have resonance with it. You find an article online or you're watching a video online, and suddenly you're sucked into it because you have that feeling inside of you of, this relates to me, so tell me more. And then the shadow attribute, making up tales that harm others. I think that would come out in an aspect where you feel like you're trying to save face, for example. You did something, but you don't want to own responsibility for it, so you're going to pass the blame on somebody else. Doesn't make you a horrible person, it just means that you have shadow that you need to work through. We've all done it to a certain degree at some point. And again, with shadow, that's just shadow. It could live within, but it's not where somebody permanently dwells, just like nobody permanently dwells in the light either. Making up tales that harm others.
Falsehoods.
Yeah, and I just kind of feel like if somebody, well, it's your card. And then you can pull that.
A realm that I don't like to delve into is gossip and rumors. And it's very, very easily identifiable as shadow and a shadow attribute. Making stories up about others to make oneself feel better or look good. I know for me that's a place I do not like to dwell. I don't even like to tap into that energy because I know it's coming from an inauthentic place. And sometimes that's when somebody's wearing a mask because they're trying to look cool in front of their friends, or they're cutthroat and they're throwing somebody under the bus to get the job. Those kinds of things. I see that as the shadow attribute of a storyteller.
So hold on to it because we may come back to it. Thank you.
My card is the alchemist. The light attribute is transformation of base motives and goals into golden wisdom. I like that. Makes me feel good inside. I'm not quite sure. The transformation of base motives.
Are you still in the light?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So repeat that again. What was the alchemist, the light attribute?
The light attribute is transformation of base motives and goals into golden wisdom. I like the last part of that because that's part of what I do, is to show people another way. It's like, no, you have been this way for so long. Just let me throw this idea at you. You can accept it for wherever you want. You don't have to accept it. It's just, I would like to bring this to your attention.
And there's the transformation, right? The alchemist.
Yeah.
Is we're bringing different
Yeah.
elements in. It's transforming whatever it is into something else.
And
right?
that's kind of like what my goal is. I mean, I want to bring different ideas, different
You are
things.
bringing
Yes.
that, yes.
I am doing that. And, that one makes me feel really good. Now, the shadow attribute is misuse of the power and knowledge that come through spiritual practice. And I think in that respect, what it's telling me is, like, I'm not trying to get somebody to follow me mindlessly. What I do is not a cult, because it can't be a cult, because it's up to each and every individual to accept or not to accept. So the misuse of this power would be for me to suggest that if you don't do this, this is going to happen to you, or that'll happen to you. When no, it won't happen to you. I mean, this does not make me feel good, because I don't, and what Steve was relating to earlier, some people say, I don't do that, I don't want to do that, or whatever. All this does is bring to light what could be if you allow it. I like the light attribute because that's what I'm all about. The shadow attribute is if I'm trying to get you to do something you don't want to do. And that's not, it's good to be aware of that, but I'm not going to lay in it, I'm not going to live it. But it's just good to know that that's there. Whoops, that could have been your card.
Oh, well, that's, actually, we'll just keep with it, since usually I'm funny, I'll stick them back in, but
Well, you go ahead.
what did just pop out, this
Is a fitting card.
seeker, Seeker. So light attribute, thirst for wisdom and truth wherever they are. So a thirst for wisdom and truth wherever they are. The shadow aspect of seeker, inability to commit to a path once found. Ooh, interesting, right? An inability to commit to a path once found. I'm feeling into that energy because, yeah, the light attribute, the seeker, and just by nature of what it is that I'm so blessed and grateful of what I get to do. Not only do I continue to seek, as I expect I will be for the rest of my life, but watching other seekers come into this space. So thirst for wisdom and truth wherever they are. And I love that. I love seeing that, recognizing, seeing that in others as well, because, having that thirst, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we want to know what the truth is. We want to gain the wisdom, not just the knowledge, but the wisdom, experiential. And watching other people as they are seeking to have their aha moments, which encourages them to want to seek even more so. And I love it. All right, the shadow attribute. The inability to commit to a path once found. I need to feel that one for a moment. Besides, it's obvious. Like, I feel like, hold on a second, because you're going to take me down a different rabbit hole. So hold on. The inability to, and again, I know it's obvious on its surface, but I want to feel that energy of inability to commit to a path once found. As I'm feeling that, I feel, even when I started my journey, there have been times throughout my life, because I became more consciously aware, I was 27, 28 years old, so a long time. But there were moments in that time too, it wasn't just I jumped on the path and there I was. There were moments of finding myself on a dirt road somewhere, metaphorically speaking, instead of on my path and journey. And it took me a while before I would say I was in a state of being able to consciously state that this is what I'm doing. So kind of a back and forth, but and not that it couldn't happen even to where I am today of knowing what the path is and choosing not to stick with it, because if I'm not sticking with my path, with my journey, then what am I seeking? If it isn't for that divine wisdom, for that those divine experiences, the divine truth, what am I seeking then? But what were you thinking?
I had immediate examples that came to mind that relate to people of you have a calling inside of you that's going to take you a certain way, but it's going to take you away from friends and family and relationships, and you don't want to let go of that.
That's
so
interesting.
You tie it. You cling to the shadow aspect in that sense of saying, I don't want to lose this. I think this is good for me, even though I'm being called to go this way. And in that sense, your inability to commit to the path that you're going to is taking you into the shadow attribute. Again, it's not a negative, it's part of the learning experience, but it's dipping into the other side of the energy.
Actually, I think that's a really good example. sometimes too, we're afraid that if I evolve and I get healthier, who am I going to be at the end of my journey? And will my partner still be with me, whether by my choice or their choice? That's a big thing. For me, it was this commitment when I really became consciously aware, what I'm doing. For me, when it was, so the seeker, the aspect here of getting my soul in the right place, whatever that means for me personally, and that's what I've come to realize, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, this is my personal journey, this is about my soul. And when I became so sure of that, committed to it, it really just, I mean, I care about other people's thoughts, opinions, but this is something that it really doesn't matter anybody else around because it's my soul, right? So so it's not even a thought of not being committed anymore because of what that means at such an incredibly deep, literally soulful level. But it didn't start that way. It started with a way to end suffering. So at this point, for myself and for quite a while, trusting and knowing that people coming in and out of my orbit, that's part of the journey. But I can again definitely see where somebody would be afraid to commit if it's going to change the dynamic, and we're so used to being comfortable that the unknown is uncomfortable and we may not want to test the water. But for me, it was so strong of this was just something I was doing that it superseded all else.
And at a higher level, so to speak, another example that I was going to say was when the path that you're on is a path to healing, clinging to the shadow attribute would be to staying in that comfortable place that you know, because you don't know or you haven't felt in a long time the healing aspect of whatever it is that you're going through. So you're not staying on your path of the healing that you're headed in by clinging to the known muck that you might be in, so to speak.
Well, let me add this to that. I kind of feel like Richard Nixon. I want to say this about that. But no, it's just, what if, let's just throw it out there, some of those people you were afraid of will leave you, stick. You got to look at it from that point of view too. I mean, no matter what we do in life, we're going to lose some friends. We're going to lose this or that. So help yourself out. I mean, I know that sounds like I'm being selfish, but no, sometimes you have to take care of yourself, but you don't have to leave everybody behind in the wake of it.
No, and sometimes, in fact, it's through one's own seeking that they are developing this better sense of self, etc., that they become the role model for the others around them, without being pushy or, you've got to do things my way because I know the right way. It's just other people, we're a role model of what we do, not of what we say. So they can see the actions and what the results are for that particular person, as opposed to the person saying, it's the only way that you can achieve this or that. They're just doing it for themselves. Other people see that and they want to experience that levity too, or the lightness of the soul, the healing.
But I think in your soul, you know what's right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what feels good. You know what works for you. I mean, it's just, we've talked about this before. People in their own journeys, they may not be there for a while, or it may take them a while to get where you're at, or they may choose to go just totally the other way. That's part of, that's their soul journey, your soul journey.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it just seems so, like, why would you want to do anything else? But that's my point of view.
And if you tie together the shadow attribute of the storyteller, telling stories that harm others, with the seeker, you know that those are two different energies, right? Because
it's actually what I was just going to challenge you guys on. Like, hey, we have storyteller, the alchemist, and the seeker. Give me a story, Steve.
by the nature of a seeker in their authenticity, there is no desire to do harm to one another.
Yeah.
They are simply seeking the growth for themselves.
Mhm.
And that's not from a narcissistic place and not from a selfish place, because the growth of themselves can then be parlayed to the growth of others.
The seeker learning how to be the alchemist for transformation and gets to share their story with others.
And the power in the alchemy, when the alchemist realizes that they can take something and turn it into something better. You know the old cliche of leaving someplace better than when you arrived?
Yeah. And I think that's the whole idea.
And what's funny, we really did not pick these out ahead of time because really we can do that. Grab one more. Right, pick a card, any card. Whatever it want to be.
Okay, we'll go with this guy right here.
And then because there are so many different archetypes, we can create a story out of any of them. And they just bring us, again, that recognition maybe of where we are, or whether it's in the light or the darker attribute. Huh.
I know, I couldn't believe I
Okay,
pulled this one.
go ahead, Steve. You've pulled this before, haven't you?
Yeah, I have.
The mentor, light attribute, passing on wisdom and refining a student's character.
All right, so say that again. Mentor.
Mentor, the light attribute, passing on wisdom and refining a student's character.
Okay.
In my life, I do a lot of that light attribute of passing on the wisdom. The wisdom comes to me and it flows through me. I do that in what I call my day job in IT, where I share all of the information that I learn and I document. I give it to the team members because I want them to be able to handle anything if I'm not around or somebody else is not around. But it also increases their confidence and ability in all the tasks that our team has to do.
The mentor becomes the storyteller. Real quick, the shadow side.
The shadow, the inability to allow the student to move on to the role of master, imparting false instruction. So the shadow side of a mentor is fearing the growth of the student and trying to hold them down so that they can always stay the mentor, which not only doesn't help the mentor, but it doesn't help the student.
Yeah, I feel that dependency in both ways.
And dipping into that shadow attribute would hopefully take somebody not long before they want to get out of it, because they would realize that any student that becomes a mentor doesn't cause a mentor to lose their mentorship. You can always be forever a teacher and a mentor to help someone in some way. Just like with love, you can give love out and never lose it. So when it comes to being a mentor, the more the merrier. The more wisdom that you can share and flow through to others, and in turn allow them the space to become mentors of their own, it's only going to increase consciousness.
Collectively.
Okay, I got the Don Juan card.
And only because we're...
In the light attribute, and the only way I can look at this is everybody's got something about them that attracts people. Whether it's through seduction or whether it's through, boy, you're just a real interesting person.
Oh, you're already defending this card.
No.
No,
I'm just,
set the
when I
stage
first
so-
got this the first time, I didn't know how to read it, because
So what does it say?
it says light attribute, spotlight your positive seductive qualities. That's why I said what I did, because not everybody looks at you in a seductive manner. They look at you as, well, you have some qualities that I really
Seductive
like.
doesn't have to be sexual.
No, but I mean, that's kind of like the other side of what I'm saying. It's like, that might make me more seductive to them when they see how, well, I like that attribute about you. I like the way you handle yourself. I like the way you do this. But now the shadow attribute is using the power of romantic attraction for private agendas, which is not a good thing, because you have the opportunity to either help somebody or break their heart. And to me, this tells me that you don't care about breaking their heart. Your agenda is your agenda, and you just look at them as I forget the word I want to use, but that's just what happens. I've got, like the one song says, I'll have 1,000 more before I'm through. You know, it's that song that goes, that's what you get for loving me. So, you know, it's just like I got 100 more like you, I have 1,000 before I'm through.
You know, there's a piece to seductive in this when it comes to authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
When you're being authentic, you are genuinely unique. And for that reason alone, people can feel the uniqueness. That there's just something different about you that's seductive, that it draws you in to say, I want to know more, I want to feel more, I want to experience more of this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I was driving at, but you know, sometimes I can't always find the right words.
Well, you know what, I'm gonna do mine real quick, just because we're running out of time, we can kind of put them together. So I got child, the magical child, so the light attributes, seeing the potential for sacred beauty in all things. The belief that everything is possible, and I'm gonna repeat that. The light attributes of the child, magical, seeing the potential for sacred beauty in all things, the belief that everything is possible. The shadow aspect, therefore, is pessimism, depression, and disbelief in miracles, believing that energy and action are not required for growth. And I can, you know, I've been on both sides of this coin myself. Although I've known for quite a few years that energy and action are required, but you know, sometimes getting into that pessimistic or depressive state, or you know, whatever, and it doesn't feel good. You know, again, another nudge, right, of getting over to the light attribute of things. And oftentimes, if I'm feeling down, I will bring myself back to the intention of the beauty of this world, that I am so grateful that while I'm here in the physical sense, that I get to experience things that my spirit won't be able to experience. That is the touch, the sensation of a leaf, touching one of my grandbaby's faces. I wouldn't have a physical body by which to do that, or a physical nose by which to smell.
It's been doing that a lot too.
So getting back into the joy of being a human being, what it just at its basic level, what does it mean to be a human being? Putting these together, mentor, Don Juan, and the magical child.
A good storyteller would know that a mentor living in his light attributes would look for the sacred beauty in all of the students and bring that forward as a strength rather than focusing on the weaknesses. And through that authenticity, will attract more students.
And there's the Don Juan energy. So yeah, we can do this all day, folks. So our time is up, so we can't. But we wanted to share a little archetype energy with you. And so thanks for watching the episode. Should you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, until next time, thank you, be well, and namaste.